Hello, my name is Jamie Tomey, and I am pleased to welcome you to Artist Book House's Evanston Bound tour with Hannah Batsel. Hannah is a book artist and author and a lover of rabbits, and we're excited to speak with her today. Please enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Quarant Tour with Hannah Batsel, brought to you by Artist Book House. Hannah, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I've got my quarantine, kind of Cocker Spaniel haircut going on, and I'm feeling good.
Good. Have you cut your hair yourself, or are you just growing it? Is this like in between time?
It's definitely, it's in need of a trim, but I've been doing my own bangs, but I think I do more and more every time, so eventually I'm just gonna have like an accidental bowl cut.
Quarantour bowl.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so I am so happy to have you here. We have so much to talk about today, but let's start with, how are you holding up?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm really fortunate to have a lot of my own studio stuff in my like makeshift basement here, which I'll show you in a second. So I'm not hurting for work, which is nice.
Mhm.
But I do miss I really miss my partner, and I miss going out to eat food. I'm not a big cook, so ramen noodles is like getting a little old. Um, but I'm pretty good. I'm holding in there. How about you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. These quarantines have been such a joy in getting to talk to artists and seeing different things that book artists and printers and bookish people are doing. So that's been fun, something to look forward to each week. Speaking of which, how did you come to the book arts? What's your background, and like were you an artist growing up? Were you a bookish person growing up? Talk to us about you and how you came to this place.
So you asked this question at a great time because I just cleaned out a bunch of my old storage. So I found, this is not probably my earliest book, but this is like a very good representation of my very early work.
Uh,
As a little kid, I used to make these books all the time. This one is called, I guess, The Basic Guidebook of Ukrainian Animals. I think I probably heard the word Ukrainian and decided to like plagiarize it a little bit.
you
Um,
adapted Ukrainian and made it Eurocranian.
yeah, but this was what I used to always do as a kid, was to make these guidebooks to other planets. Um, so this is like all of these animals that I made up. I've always been really into exploration and nature. Uh, so I would make these books describing faraway planets and the flora and fauna that were there. You can see I got really serious. A lot of text going on. Um,
Oh my gosh,
and
how old were you with that Eurocranian book? How old were you?
my
Do
gosh, I have
you
no
remember?
idea. Probably 10 or so.
Nice.
Uh, and then by the time I got to college, I was making stuff like this. This is a zine, a comic zine about the apocalypse happening, and the only surviving creatures were cockroaches and Iggy Pop, because he's like just so pumped full of preservatives. Um, so they make like a punk rock band and they have to tour around the world. I believe at the end they fight the zombie Sex Pistols or something. There's like a
Okay.
zombie suspicious.
So let me confirm that it's Iggy Pop and the Cockroaches doing the
Correct.
punk band. That is the best band name ever. Iggy Pop and the
Thank
Cockroaches.
you.
That is great. And you say you made that one in college when you were an undergrad?
Yeah, so you can see here's some of his cockroach bandmates.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but when I got to college, I kind of fell into the art major. I thought I was going to be a film major, but I wanted to take one drawing class, and the school I went to, University of Georgia, in order to take art classes, you have to be an art major. So I thought I was going to be really sneaky, switch my major for one semester to take this one class, and then switch back to film. But I got trapped in it, and I completely loved it. Plus, it turns out that making movies is not as fun as watching them, so I wasn't really missing anything.
So you're essentially saying that you were trapped by art. Art trapped.
Yeah, exactly. Art swindled me.
Swindle.
And there was a wonderful professor there named Eileen Wallace. Maybe some of you guys know her. And she introduced me to the pantheon: paper making, letterpress, bookmaking, and edition work. And I kind of fell in love with this ecosystem where you could make your own paper, print on it, and make it into a book. And it was this thing that was completely yours. The independence of that really appealed to me, and the complete tailoredness, the like bespokeness, I guess, of that was something that I really liked. And the fact that you could make a million of them.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So did you start with which discipline did you start with? Because clearly you started with the book when you were 10 and
Right.
you moved forward with that. But did you start with any of those disciplines alone, or did you start with that mindset of, oh, I'm going to make paper for this project of a book, or oh, I'm going to start printing for this project of a book? Was there one of the disciplines that stood out to you the most at that time?
Yeah, I started with printmaking. So actually, I have these file cabinets over here, and they are stuffed full of my old prints.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I figured out that you could bind prints into a book, there was no looking back. I have never really been a like 2D, like just make a print and I'm done kind of person. And similarly, when I figured out that you could just buy handmade paper, I kind of dropped that one too. Paper making has like never been my thing.
Uh-huh.
So I zeroed in really quickly on books, and these days I really only letterpress in service of making books. It kind of it all dovetailed into that.
Into the book. And do
Yeah.
you feel like you concentrate more on a traditional structure of a book, or are you one of us? Are you among those of us who believe the book structure can be many, many different things? What is your take on the structure itself?
I definitely am one of us, Gooba Gaba one of us. I A lot of my books are a codex, because I think it's a great structure it's a classic for a reason. But I definitely have some weirder guys. Here, I'll just show you a couple things I have lying around. This is a little book called Heavy is the Head, and it kind of opens like that. It's like a little murder mystery, so you can there's like different royals represented, and then there are little flaps here with their servants attempting to do them harm in various ways. So we've got the chambermaid who's slipping a knife under the pillow of the princess and stuff like that.
So hold on a second. I wanna check on that one again. So you have these little hidden flaps. This reminds me of those things that you do this with, where you go back and forth and back and forth and you lift up. What are those called?
Cootie catchers.
Cootie catchers, exactly. Back in the day, back to being 10 years old. So can you show us a couple more of those flaps? Because that's really interesting. And did you do this, hold on, did you do this letterpress?
Yes.
And then did you print it all on one sheet and then fold it? Or are these additional fortune tellers? Thank you, Nancy. Fortune tellers is another word for it. Thank you. A more gentle word for it, elegant word for it. Did you print these all on one sheet of paper and then fold it? Or is this multiple things? Like, are these little flaps just triangles that you glued in, sort of like a pop-up situation? How is this made, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So the main sheet is all one sheet and it's folded. The only thing that are separate are these little triangles. So they're just little extra panels put in. The goal is to sort of look into the triangles and figure out which servant killed which royal. So I believe there is a snake snuck into her boa kind of thing. The prince, I believe, has a spider in his rose that he's wearing. Then the king is drinking poison out of the goblet, and then the princess has a knife under her pillow.
Wow, that's just great. That's like multi-layered and awesome. And earlier you and I were just talking about bunnies and rabbits and your fascination with them. Where's the bunny in that little guy?
Oh my gosh, you might have just called my bluff. There might not be a rabbit.
There might not be a rabbit in it. That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, no.
Not everything needs a rabbit.
We can say that her boa has rabbit.
Her boa? It's rabbit fur.
We can retcon that.
even more dismaying that. So, okay, I'm sorry to interrupt that. So can I just double check again on our group of participants? Are there any children in the audience today? If there are, if you are a young person, just drop your name and age into the chat for me, because we're going to talk a little bit about some adult themes a little later, and we want to make sure children are not in the thing for that. It doesn't look like we have any kids here, so yay.
All right, we're gonna get rowdy then.
We can get rowdy and have quite a party. Okay, next book. Show us your next book.
Okay, I'll show you some little things first. I think I'm gonna try to go to a top-down view with a super bootleg rig that I made last night. But before that happens, I break my iPad. I'll show you a couple more things in the realm of non-traditional structures, I guess.
And can I interrupt again and ask, so you went to the undergrad, you got your BFA in art, right? Studio art, I'm assuming. And then what happened with your book life?
Oh, so after that, I moved to South Korea, and I lived there for a couple years.
What?
I was making art while I was there, and I was doing shows while I was there. But I was living in a very small apartment in a super rural part of the country and didn't have that much access to art supplies, so definitely no access to a printing press.
Sure.
And so most of what I was doing there was mail art, which I have some of that here. I was having trouble getting mail. My friends and family back in the States would try to send me mail and it would never show up. And so I started making this mail art to kind of send myself mail about my experiences. So all of these have my Korean name on them that I was teaching English, my students gave me. Han Hyo-rin was my Korean name. So I addressed them to myself, and they were just little pieces about what I was doing out in the countryside. So this one is about my favorite soup, which was made from cow's blood, which I realize is like a kind of a crazy concept. So I made this letter, and when you pull it out, the cow has a little accident. I'm glad there's no kids.
That is stunning and disgusting.
And
there's your little cow. Do you have a series of these? Are they sort of similar? Have you ever shown these in a show?
I have shown them in Korea, but I've never shown them in the States.
Wow. Okay. Ken, make a note of that.
Here's one, again, addressed to me, Han Hyo-rin. This one was about a knife walker that I saw. A guy who kind of walks along the blade of a knife as a performance. So the outside is this really textured, scaled paper that I made over in Korea. And then if you pull it out, let's see, you've got this knife walker. You can see he's got some bloody feet.
Wow, these are just so poignant and lovely and weird, and I love them. And how many of those do you have?
Oh geez, who knows? 15 to 20 probably.
Wow, that is gorgeous.
Thank you. I'll show just maybe one or two more, and then we'll get back on topic. But
it's all on topic. It's all on topic today.
Good. Here's another one. This one was based on my best friend in Korea and co-worker. Her request when I moved there was that if you want to really understand where I'm coming from, she gave me a book about Buddhism to read. And she said, if you really want to, you know, understand me and where I'm coming from, my culture, like, please read this. So I read this book about Buddhism, and it was super interesting, but I ended up making this card about it, about kind of becoming enlightened, or just the concept of removing something from your mind to make it better. So you can kind of, as you pull this sword out of his head, he kind of opens his eyes a little bit.
Oh my gosh, I love these. I love these so much.
Thanks.
So how long did it take you to make each one of these? And okay, I got all these questions, so bear with me. You were in North Korea for how long? And then
South Korea.
Okay, sorry. And then how long did it take you to make each of these? And where do they live now? Just sort of storage? And then are you going to hopefully continue these for another, like maybe quarantine art project or something? Like I don't know, but they're just so fascinating because they're each kind of these little tiny short stories that make a larger book, so to speak.
Yeah, I'll show you more.
All the questions.
So I was in Korea for about a year and a half to 2 years, in that range. And I would say each of these, it took probably, it depends how complex. This was about the experience of eating a crab, by the way. And I would say that they took probably from a day anywhere up to a week, depending on the complexity. They're all hand painted, so if it has a lot of details like this one, it can get, you know, lengthy. They are just kind of sitting around. I have so much stuff just in my studio, and this one you can also see its little crab guts if you open up.
Wow. Wow. As a piece in and of itself, as an object in and of itself, that's just gorgeous. But to have that extra layer of the story behind it is just so lovely.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for showing these. And then I will stop interrupting.
No, you're good. So I think that I don't really have any concrete plans for these. They're kind of just sitting around. However, I would love to take the same concept, and something I'm planning right now is to sort of fictionalize, fantasize the concept, and to create a sort of Invisible City style exploration of different fantasy planets. Kind of like I said, as a kid, I used to always do these guidebooks to different planets. I would love to revisit that with this concept. And with the supposition that the person making these only has so much room on a spaceship. So when they get to a planet, they have to make this tiny little thing to translate their experience.
Yeah, I love that.
And actually, I have one of those kind of mocked up here. I don't know if you can read that, but it says number 0193, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that little guy. Is that a planet or a?
Yeah, it's a little planet. So it's this little envelope, and you can pull this tiny guy out. And it's super small. You can see next to my hand how big it is. But it's just a little, you can flip flip these down to see different views of this tiny planet. So that's
great.
That's kind of where I'm going with this right now.
Okay.
But I don't know what I'm gonna do with the original Korea ones. Here's another super tiny one. This is all hand cut paper. This one was from my visit to the hospital in Korea, just for like a routine checkup, but everything there was, all of the posters about getting your shots and everything was extremely cute, all with these little cartoon characters, and I thought that was like a really funny kind of juxtaposition. So I made this kind of hospital Valentine of cutesy stuff, and inside, instead of your normal Valentine's Day heart, there's like an anatomical.
Like an actual physical.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those. That's very teeny tiny. So
Yeah.
we have a couple comments in the chat. Nancy says, this is the reason for watching these shows, to see inside an artist's mind. And Hilda says, love the layers and stories within each piece. And I have to agree with that. These separate stories are just really great. What is this guy?
Oh, this was a festival I went to. I don't remember what the day is, which like specific holiday, but it's this festival where a huge bonfire is built, which is this, and people's wishes are written down and tied onto the bonfire, which is all these little tags on it. And then it's like set alight, and inside you can see, if you fold down like this and pull it out, it's the moon that was there that day.
Oh, that's great. He's very charming.
Right.
So what? This is all the work from overseas, and then what happened with your life?
Right. So then I decided that I was making a lot of work that I thought I was okay with where it was at technically, but I was not okay with where it was at conceptually. I wanted a stronger conceptual basis for what I was doing, and I wanted a direction for what I was exploring in my work. So I decided to go to grad school, and I started applying to grad schools from Korea. And the one that caught my eye was here at Columbia College, Chicago.
Yeah, MFA in book and paper. Yeah.
Yeah, pour one out, RIP.
Right.
And so I went there for my MFA. And
so when were you here at Columbia?
I graduated in 2016.
Okay, so just I don't know what group MFA that would be, but recent 4 years ago graduation. And then what did you do after? What have you been up to?
Wow. Well, let's see. I these days mostly make edition work. So all the stuff I just showed you, this stuff from Korea, is one of a kind handmade stuff. But for my own sanity and for my own financial well-being, most of what I do is editions. So that has been what I've been doing since grad school and when I was in grad school. Maybe it's a good time to move you up to the above view. And this is going to be, hang with me for a second.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a second. I'm gonna pin myself on the spotlight video here, so I can tell you everybody that I'm gonna drop Hannah's website into the chat real quick, hannahbatsel.com, so you can take a look at some of the work from her at her website. I'm also going to drop our website for Artist Book House in the chat so that you can take a look at that. And if you haven't yet watched the videos that are on YouTube, Ken has done a fantastic job of editing, but he also, I noticed the other day, dropped them into our Artist Book House website. So you don't even have to go to YouTube to watch those. You can just go to our Artist Book House website and check those out. Okay, I'm going to switch back to Hannah here. So Hannah, we're on you. We're looking at your desk. Oh my goodness.
All right.
This is
How's
exciting.
that view?
So right now we're just seeing an inbox, and yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Perfect.
So
all right.
One of the things that we figured out with Sean's showing under the camera is that we have to make sure that you are fully under the camera. So scoot your book back a little bit. There we go. That's exactly perfect. We can see that. And Ken says in the chat, he'll be posting Rebecca's and his quarantores from last week and the week before later today or tomorrow. So you can view those if you missed those. So
this is my absolutely favorite bookmaking tool, by the way.
Is that
not surprising in the shot?
Yeah, I love those. Those are I was gonna say Tyvek, but that's not what the material is.
Teflon.
Teflon. I've been connecting with an artist who's going to install some Tyvek pieces in a park for us. But Teflon bone folders are the best because they don't leave a mark on book board or paper or book cloth. All right, what are we looking at, Hannah?
All right, so this was the first edition book that I ever made. And you can tell because this one is actually completely handmade. This is not edition. This is the original copy, and then I made an edition based off of it. So this one is printed, and you can kind of see the comparison between this one that I completely hand painted and this one, which is printed based on the painting.
Wow, this is great to see that. Can you hold the hand painted one up a little closer to the camera real quick?
Sure.
Just hold it up so we can see a little bit more. Oh my gosh.
So on the right we have hand painted. You can see it's a little shinier.
Yeah.
And on the left we have the printed copy that was based on my painting. Screen printed at Sputnik Press.
Wow. All right.
So the concept behind this book is that it is lots of books within books. So you read halfway through the first, like this, and eventually, and this is held to the spine, you can see it's kind of sticking with magnets in the spine there. But eventually you get to a smaller book and you read that halfway in, and then you get to a smaller book, read that, and then until in the middle, there is this really super tiny book.
And these are all, this is your original, so these were all hand painted, hand bound, of course. And they're held in with magnets in the spines.
Right. So you get this kind of near view.
Yeah, it's like a Russian doll.
Right. And the story goes back in time as you get closer to the center. And at this point, it starts going forward in time again.
Oh, that's great.
There's a lot of like printmaking nerd stuff about this book, like the fact that when you go out, you lose a color every time.
Oh, okay.
So we're losing red, but the cover is red. And then this one, we're losing green, but the cover is green. And then in this one, we're losing blue. So there's all kinds of nerdy stuff going on. But
I love that. How many did you make in the edition at Sputnik?
The edition was 50. So here's another comparison. On the right, the hand-painted one, and on the left, the printed, screen-printed one.
Now, on your right one, is that hand-painted onto book cloth or paper?
Yes.
Okay.
Book cloth.
Very cool. Do you have any left in your edition?
I don't, and I get a lot of flack for that. Most people, this is like a popular one of my books, so when people want something of mine, they usually want this one, and I have to tell them there's no more. Sorry.
Sorry, sold out. Ooh.
Sorry. Yeah. And the colophon is in
and
here.
Ken says, I want all of the books.
Ken lives 5 minutes from me, so he can come see these books anytime. So that was my first big edition. And then this was another one that I did at Columbia.
Ken also says he'll social distance when he comes over.
Only
so this is another Columbia produced during graduate school.
Right. So this one is called Out of the Dark into the Water. It's a do-sa-do. So if you're a book nerd, you know that means it opens both ways. This one, the cover was also screen printed over at Sputnik. And this is kind of the half fictional. I'm a huge linoleum person, so whenever you see a print in my books, it's going to be linoleum. It's the kind of half fictional story of my grandfather, who was a collector of exotic art and pieces. There's a picture of him with all of his stuff around him. And forgive me, I did this above view, far away enough to show the huge books, which is kind of tough for the little books.
No, this is perfect. I mean, you hold it up, it's great. Thank you.
Good. So it's got, let's see, there's
Now,
an old picture of me as him.
now, did you hand set this type, or how is this one printed?
Oh, so this is offset. All the type is offset, and all of these pages that are just illustration are linoleum cuts.
Nice.
So you can see this one is all linoleum cut. This is my tricky way of hiding the stitching. So this red line and this red line right here are the stitches that hold the book together.
That's great. That's clever. How many are in this edition?
This is 125.
Do you have any left of this one?
I do have them left of this one. This is the most orange print I've ever produced.
That's saying something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, where's the rabbit? Where's the rabbit?
Oh, let's see.
The hidden rabbit.
Okay, so this is a picture of me as my grandfather, and in that cage is my actual old pet rabbit, Pip, who was so patient and posed for this picture in a tiny bird cage for way too long.
Aw, Pip. So the thing that our audience people need to know is that you had mentioned earlier, I don't know if I said this or clarified it, but that you like to hide a bunny in each book that you do. And
yes,
it's because rabbits are your favorite, and that it's like a little teeny tiny Easter egg, so to speak, in each book. So that's why I keep saying, where's the bunny? So that's
right.
that's for our guests. All right, what's this fascinating black thing?
All right, we got black on black here. This is a book called Ephemeris. I made this one as part of a residency at the University of Florida that is run by Ellen Knudsen, who's just a phenomenal book artist. If you're familiar with her work, I find that I tend to pull inspiration from outside of the book arts usually, but she is an exception. She's one of my favorite book artists in the world. So I was really lucky to be able to work with her to make this book. Let's see, I'll have to put it down for the big shot. So this is about a magician who lives next to this kind of sinkhole pit. I know it's black on black, so it's a little hard to see. But his assistant's soul, which is right there in gold, starts falling down into the pit, and he has to try to figure out, let's see, there we go, figure out a way to save the assistant. This was based on my research of their magic books in their library, their special collections library. I love magic. Essentially all of my books are about magic, and so getting to see these old actual 15th to 17th century magical books and make my own book about it was amazing. This is also a pop-up book, so these little demons you can see can kind of move around.
Wow. Just what's the paper that you've got? What? Oh, there's your bunny. What's the paper that this is printed on? Is this handmade paper or art?
It's not handmade paper, and I wish I knew what it was. It's this, I'm not sure how well you can see, it's very textured. But it's not handmade. We bought it. If I were a better book artist, I would know what it was called.
Wow.
So he's trying all of these different actual methods from real magic books to try to save his assistant's life, or his apprentice, I guess. Including making these birds called the ephemeris, or ephemerae probably. But he's not having much luck. He's got to give him this potion, 3 drops of aurum potabile. This is eventually he gives up and he tries to slaughter his neighbor's pigs as a sacrifice, which is something that he vowed not to do earlier in the book, but he's desperate. And spoilers, in the end, the soul kind of slips down, and even though he tries to pull it up, he kind of struggles, and it keeps slipping back in. So.
And everybody dies?
Well, at least the boy dies.
At least the
Oh,
boy.
Eric.
Wow. Oh, Eric. Wow, that's great. How many is
And
in that edition?
this edition is 45.
Do you have any left of those?
I have one left.
Wow, that's great.
So if we got any big spenders in the audience.
There's one left, people.
There's one left.
Jump on it.
Jump on it.
We have a question in the chat that we have two questions. Cass is asking, how did you create the text for your choice of print, the font that you used? And then of course, Tim is asking how much.
I believe this one is $5.95. And that's the question, how I made the text. So I actually took a huge linoleum block. Let's see, I'll go to some white text so you can see it better. And I carved a few of every letter. So I carved like 3 A's, 3 B's, 3 C's. And then I printed that letterpress and I scanned the print and I created a typeface based on that print. So I actually did digitally, I guess, hand set.
Right.
This, but I made
did you do it on polymer plates at the eventually, or did you?
Yes.
How is this print? This is printed with a press, right?
Yeah. This was made with a Vandercook. So all of these are actual linoleum illustrations, and then the text is polymer plates based on linoleum.
Based on linoleum, scanned, made your own typeface.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Thanks.
I love this. I love the color and the creepiness of this one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing.
I love being a creep.
Yeah, what are we gonna see next?
Okay, next let's do the kids book, eh?
Yay! So one of the things that's so fascinating about this whole quarantine thing is that your actual this is a published book. Who's your publisher for this?
This is published through Carol Rhoda Books, which is an imprint of Lerner Publishing.
It came out in April 7th.
It did. It came out right smack dab in the middle of quarantine. So I've not done any readings or signings or school visits or anything.
So this is our first experience with this. And we do have to mention to our participants today, we can't read the whole book because of copyright issues. So we're just going to look through briefly. And then you can also find this book if you have a library card, and if your library participates in the ebook apps like Libby or Overdrive or Hoopla, you can get this book on there, and then Hannah and her publisher get paid per download on Hoopla, I believe is how it works. On Libby and Overdrive, it's per purchase of the book. And I know our library here in Evanston, we have it via Hoopla, and we don't have it on Libby yet. So Hannah gets paid every single download that is on Hoopla for our library card. So I just wanted to plug that little bit for our author here today, since this is a quarantine baby book.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Could you, walk us through this process in the book?
Sure. So the concept here is that it's supposed to be a very straight-laced alphabet book run by this guy, the owl. You can see him here on the end sheets, walking through his gallery of animals. But the narrator, who is, let's be honest to me, is obsessed with rabbits, and so keeps trying to pull the book back into only talking about rabbits. So it starts with A is for a rabbit, and the owl says, wait, a rabbit starts with R. Well, yes, but a rabbit starts with A. Going in through B is for bunny, C is for can you believe how many rabbits are on this page, count them. And the book sort of gets crazier and crazier until near the end. They've got this, of course, on the R page. R is a big one in this book, and the owl has to come in and stop things from going too off the rails.
Yeah, the owl's trying to reclaim the abecedarium for everyone, but the rabbit is keeping it all about the rabbit.
Right.
I love that.
So I thought I would show you this page in particular. because I know if you're watching this, you're an art nerd. There's a rabbit art gallery, but it's also a good excuse to talk about how these books are made in the first place. So I actually have, this is the original painting of this page. You can see there's no text here because they set that in digitally. But let's see if I can hold it still enough. A painting that looks like this, and you can see it's much bigger than the actual book, ends up being a book that looks like this. We thought it would be a fun digital, or not digital, a fun, I guess, practical joke, I guess, that the owl in this scene is squished in the margin of the page, in between these two tourist rabbits.
Yeah, he's
but
like,
you can see in the original painting, he's doing okay.
yeah, he's a little bit going crazy already by that point. So his eyes are crazy.
Right.
I just love that. Yeah, he's a gutter owl there.
Yeah. Yeah. We have, I guess I didn't really change too much from the Iggy Pop zine days, because we've got some tributes to my favorite musicians on this page. David Bowie above all else, but of course Freddie Mercury, Dolly Parton, and so many more. There are a lot of little references for parents in this book. Hopefully that'll make it more of a fun time for everybody, not just kids. But things get really insane by the end of the book.
One thing also to reiterate the Hoopla app thing. On Hoopla, you go through each page, but you can also zoom in quite a bit. And it's really the detail on this book, the just zooming in on these little tiny jokes, it's just really fascinating. If you don't have the actual book in front of you, then to look on the Zoom, not Zoom, but on zooming in on Hoopla is really, really fascinating. And of course, buying the book would be a good idea too. Bookshop.org, supporting our independent bookstore friends. I'll in just a second.
Well, actually, you can sort of see the smallest joke in the entire book. I don't know how well it'll show up on Zoom, but this rabbit has a human foot keychain on its little fanny pack.
I love it. Oh my God, that's the best.
I tried to slip a lot of little goofy jokes in. And so I guess with our last, 15 minutes, I'll talk about what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, and take us around your space if you want to. Just remember, on our Zoom situation, moving slowly is good. So everybody might need to not get dizzy. I'm going to drop the link here for purchasing the book in the chat through bookshop.org. And on bookshop.org, like I said, it supports our local bookstores, but it also is on sale for $16.55. So you can do lots of good things with this. Yeah. All right, take us, Hannah.
Okay, so this is the point of the tour where it gets a little child inappropriate. So if you've got a little kid watching, I mean, that's on you. I'm not going to say don't do it, but this is
trigger warning.
Trigger warning. There's butts in this book, be warned. So this is a book that I've been working on for 3 years. Oh my gosh. And finally with quarantine, I'm able to finish it. It's been printed for 3 years, but it's been sitting in my basement waiting to get bound because it's a bit of a complex bind. But the edition's finally getting out. This one is Actaeon. If you're familiar with the Greek mythology, you might remember Actaeon. He's a very accomplished hunter who goes out into the woods hunting with his hunting dogs and comes across some goddesses bathing. They see that he has seen them, and they turn him into a stag, and his own hunting dogs hunt him down. So I thought it was an appropriate, with the political milieu, story to retell. And I kind of took from the 80s slasher movie trope of watching someone die in a sexy way You
Right?
know, in slasher movies, it's always, you know, like a teenager in a schoolgirl outfit who's getting chopped to pieces, but she's saying, "Oh my God, no, stop!" So it's kind of reversing that male gazy trope into this really weird book. So the end sheets on this one, I'm doing a regular edition and a special edition. So this is the regular edition, which just has this little portrait, which I'm hand stamping. But this is a text block for the special edition. In the special, it's this full hand stamped page with this
Wait,
kind
those
of
are not printed. Those are hand stamped.
correct.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing them on all the books.
How many are in this edition? Wait, two things. How many are in the regular edition / how many are in the special edition hand stamped crazy pants?
Right.
Multiple.
The
Yeah.
regular edition has 50 and the special edition will have 20.
Oh, wowie, zowie. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You are an obsessive bookbinder printer person. You're like
Yeah.
Zen. I'm getting it done, Zen.
Yeah. So this one, these are the largest linoleum prints I've ever made. You'll see that soon they'll be too large to fit in the camera. So I'll try to fit them in. All black and white.
There's a
I'm from
question in the chat.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Ken is asking for a friend. Wink, wink. How much
wink.
are these?
Great question. I don't know yet. These are, I'm so bad at pricing and I hate marketing. So generally to price my work, I ask a lot of other people. And I have yet to do that since the edition's not out yet. So I'm not sure.
Right, and there will be 2 tiers of pricing on this one, with the special edition being higher. I would really hope you make sure you do that.
Yeah. And the special edition will have a slipcase and everything. But you can see the pages fold out. I mean, I think this is like 38 inches wide. So this is the goddess's bathing scene. Let's see. He sees them, she gets mad. And instead of literally turning into a stag in this version, you can see his shadow of her anger kind of looks like a stag, but he stays this nubile young man. Oh, I think you might be muted.
Oh, sorry. I was just checking. Is this, you don't have any text in this? It looks like it's all just images.
Yeah, this one is all images.
So was it hard for you to just do images, or was it as a writer as well? Or was it kind of like you embraced that for this project?
This is the big butt page, watch out. I think this one, it was easy because the narrative is so simple. I mean, really 2 things happen. You know, he sees some ladies and then gets chased down and eaten by dogs. So
not as layered as the magic book. No, I mean, not to say that this isn't layered, it's just differently layered.
Right, yeah, the magic book was all about, you know, rituals and following these texts by the letter, and it was very kind of magic nerd-y. So I think that having a lot of text in it was both part of the aesthetic and part of the story. Whereas this one, I didn't really think it needed text at all.
Yeah, I feel like the images speak for themselves as narratively.
Thank you.
You've got that, you've got the story right there in black and white.
So that's the book. In the special edition, again, I've just got a text block. I don't have one bound yet. But in the special edition, it's hand colored, so there are little spots of wounds on all the guys.
Little bloody. Is the same in sheet on the back? Oh, and Kelsey is asking, where is the rabbit in this one?
The same in sheet is on the back, and I will show you the rabbit.
Here comes the rabbit.
So you can see he also gets a little karma because he is originally hunting a rabbit.
And we love rabbits, so therefore the karma comes in when he is turned into a stag and then murdered.
Right. You can see the rabbit kind of
Murdered.
escaping in this scene
Oh my
too.
God. There's your hidden rabbit. So how
Yep.
many have you completely cased in on this yet so far during quarantine?
This is the only one actually. I have a big stack of text blocks right there that need to be trimmed in a guillotine, which I don't have here. So
Sure. So you're waiting.
Yeah, I'm waiting, but
are they all sewn? I assume you sewed them already.
they're actually drum leaf bound. Let's see.
Nice.
So I love Goody. Maybe that's controversial, I don't know. But these are all stuck together with Goody, and it's Goodyed together at the
Foredge.
Yeah, at the foredge. And then I'm going to glue up the spines, put some crash on there, and case it in drum leaf style.
Nice.
And here, I'll show you the full cover view when you open it all up.
Oh. Is that printed on book cloth or paper?
This is on paper, and then I hand colored the eyes white.
Oh my God.
And that'll be on all of them. That's the one hand coloring that's on all of the copies.
This is just so gorgeous, and I can't wait to see the edition complete and to actually maybe hopefully one day, fingers crossed, get to hold one and smell it and touch the pages and feel the texture and all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What's next? Show us.
I'm just going to be blasting you with stuff until you tell me to shut up.
Well, we have 6 official minutes, but of course, as long as people are hanging on, I want to be mindful mostly of your time and our guests' time. So there's that. But yes, I'm excited.
I can do it in 6 minutes. I usually have a few projects in various states of finishedness. So this is probably the next finished out of next to Action. This is a book that I started in Macy Chadwick's great residency called In Cahoots out in Petaluma, California. It's based on the cemetery that is right next to that residency. You can see that these have yet to be folded, just the printed pages.
So this is going to be a smaller book than your
Yeah, this is going to be a really tiny guy. So it'll just be as big as, half of this. And then this page will fold up.
Quarto.
But yeah, the concept behind this one is there's an insect called a bagworm. If you're not familiar, they create a cocoon for themselves out of whatever is in their environment. So I thought about bagworms making cocoons out of the stuff that they found on these people's graves and kind of mixing in the memories of the people along with the literal things that were on the graves. So I have the blocks that are not yet printed here, but it'll have the picture of the grave next to the chrysalis, I guess, that was made from it. So this one has like a murderer's, rough wood cross with a cactus. So the cactus spikes are in the cocoon along with these memories of this man. And this is the only text that's going to be in the book, actually. I'm not sure if you can read it, but it says, when the bagworms came to Liberty Cemetery, they were naked. Soon they built their cocoons from what they found on the graves. When the bagworms came, it was as if the dead were coming back to life.
Wow, that is so fascinating. How many pages are you printing of this?
I assume this one will be, I'll kind of like go through and see which of them kind of pass my level of standard for print quality.
Sure.
But I would say probably 40. This huge cocoon, so this book is actually for my partner. So there's this big double cocoon, and this is a bunch of memories and like imagery about our relationship, but it's kind of about this like weird, like beautiful, but somewhat uncomfortable combination of two people.
Yeah.
So whereas most of the graves are single graves, this one will be a double. These are real graves that I found from people. I think this was a husband and wife. And you can see there are like 2 branches forming into one
cocoon.
vaguely heart-shaped cocoon.
Wow, that is so great.
Thanks. That's a little girl. And then in our last 3 minutes, I'll show you a quarantine appropriate book, and then we'll call it a day. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Does anybody have any questions to drop into the chat at all? Now's the time while we wait and we can look at the desk.
I'm gonna bring you, yeah, I'll bring you back down.
Okay. Here you are.
Hi.
Hi.
I've made quite a mess. That's okay.
That's okay. Okay, here's the question in the chat. Kelsey is asking, is the typeface for that book that you just showed us also a Hannah original?
So in the Bagworm book, yes, that typeface is, that's actually hand carved.
Just in that one block, right?
Right. Here,
Yeah.
I'll turn this off now. So this is actually just hand carved. Whereas before I hand carved it and then created a typeface out of it.
So that's just on the actual block itself that you printed
Yeah.
from. All right, what do you got?
All right. Oh, and real quick before I drop that one, this is what my blocks look like after they are printed.
Oh,
So,
I just think they're so gorgeous. I love linoleum post-printing.
yeah, I do a lot of reduction prints, so they're usually a lot of different colors and crazy stuff.
And it holds on to the past. It holds on to the history of the printing.
Right. All right, last book, I promise. This one is a book that I did entirely on an airplane. So I thought it was appropriate for quarantine because limited space, limited supplies, limited time. But it is also a linoleum book.
Okay, so
Overhead.
that question actually has come up before in conversation about your work. How the bejeebus do you take linoleum carving tools onto a plane?
Oh, they have no problem with it. As long as it's not attached to the handle at the time when you go through the TSA, they're fine.
Wow. Okay, artists, listen to that. Whenever we can get back on a plane, you can take a linoleum carved handle with all your little tips in it, as long as it's not attached. So what is this? What is the image? What are the things we're looking at here? And how long was the flight?
How long was the flight?
Oh,
so
Kelsey asked that at the same exact time.
Right. So it was 24 hours of flights. So I flew to Indianapolis and then to New York and then to Miami and then to Atlanta. And I was doing this book the whole time. So
where were you going? What was the why? Why all these flights?
This was part of a residency called Air. That would send you on these flights. Since then, I think they've reformatted a little bit so that they don't send you on a bunch of unnecessary air travel. I mean, it's obviously terrible for the environment, but that's run by an amazing woman called Brandy Barker down in Atlanta.
Okay,
so they send flights.
Yeah. Let's see this.
So 5 in the morning, I arrived in Indianapolis and asked a man what I should call this book that I was making on planes. And he said overhead. So I thought it was a great idea. And I drew them in the first airport. I believe I started transferring them to blocks on the flight from Indianapolis to New York. In New York, I carved them in a layover. And then I printed them on the flight from New York to Miami, which was the most terrifying experience of my life. I printed them with a wooden spoon. If you're a print nerd, I'm sure you've done it at least once.
Yeah. So how many are in that edition?
5.
And do you have any left? Have you separated them?
There are none left of these. I think miniature book nerds were really into this, and it's such a novelty to be printed on a plane.
That, it's really cool.
That's pretty quick.
When did you bind it on the return flight? How did they dry? How did you dry them on the plane? Or did you dry them during a layover? I have so many questions and we're out of time. Hannah.
I'll answer it really quickly. So I dried them by taping them to the back of the seat in front of me and to the ceiling of the plane. And when I got off the plane, I took them off of the tape and put them on a giant piece of cardboard so that I could carry this huge piece of cardboard with them all taped to it. And I definitely bound it wet. There's no way to dry oil-based ink in a couple hours. So I was just very careful. And when I landed in Atlanta, part of the residency was that you have a show that evening with the work that you made. So I came in exhausted and, you know, just covered in ink, and thank God I didn't spill that ink on the plane.
Yeah.
And had a show, and it was a really good time. And I love residency.
Like cheese and crackers and exhaustion. I love that. That is I don't know which one is my favorite story of this whole Corin tour, but I feel like that might be one of the top 7 of my favorite stories. Okay, we've got a couple chat things. So Rin said they loved this one. Kelsey also says that's wild. And Martha says, I am amazed and thrilled. Stop hiding, which I don't know what that exactly means. I'm sure that's a little joke for you.
I'm a bit of a hermit, so it makes sense.
You're a bit of a hermit. Well, quarantine, we're all having to be hermits right now.
Right.
Oh, thank you so much, Hannah. This was a wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate your being here and being one of our Corin tours. It's so great to see your work in person and to talk with you. So thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you for coming,
everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Corin Tour with Hannah Batsel, brought to you by Artist Bookhouse. If you would like to support more of our Corin Tours, please visit our website at artistbookhouse.org/donate. Throw a little money our way so we can keep doing these kinds of programs. If you are interested in more of Hannah's work, please visit hannahbatsel.com. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.